Making his announcement at Newcastle Railway Station, it was a significant spot for Bryce Gaudry. It was his stance against Labor's intention to remove the rail line, which many political observers believe ultimately led to his disendorsement. After 15 years as the local member, he's crossed over to become an independent. He's banking on the support developed in his electorate and the backing of those dismayed over his controversial removal.
Well, I'm neither a fence-sitter nor a puppet. The community of Newcastle do not accept being pushed around by Sydney or by outsiders.
And Mr Gaudry has denied it's a spoiling tactic.
I'm not taking votes away from anyone. This is a tactic, as far as I'm concerned. I'm running to win.
As for his political rival,
for as many of those that are unhappy with the process that saw me endorsed as the candidate, there are those that are also, they want change.
The Premier admits competition is hotting up for the Newcastle seat, but he's more than happy to have a fresh new face.
It'll be a tough fight, but I believe I've got the best candidate to fight for Newcastle and win for Newcastle in Jodie McKay.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Paid parking was introduced to increase turnover while the mall markets were running, but while they're now long gone, it still costs to park in the city on a Sunday.
I think it makes it difficult for business, and if you think, for example, of picture theatres, their customers are not wanting to be paying for parking, and as well as that, having parking fines.
Paid parking and a decline in customers are contributing to the closure of Carla Swimwear after 62 years of operating from the Hunter Street Mall.
People don't want to pay for parking when there's free parking. In all the other areas around Newcastle and the Hunter, you can go to any shopping centre or any strip shopping area and park for free.
And although some retailers say mall trade isn't dwindling, Helen says compared to her other swimsuit businesses at the Junction and Charlestown, which are flourishing, this store is being left behind.
The foot traffic is declining, the maintenance of the mall, it's just, if you look around, there are empty shops everywhere. There's a safety issue as well. We've got staff worried to walk to their cars at night time.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The previous master builder's headquarters was a landmark destroyed in a very public departure from the landscape. 3.5 years after that devastating fire, construction workers are now on the Lambton Road, Turton Road corner, starting work on the new MBA Centre. Master builders will occupy one floor with the remaining space to be leased.
In fact, we've been inundated with inquiry, and which has allowed us to be a bit selective, and as a result we're going to get some excellent leases attached to the building.
Demand for commercial office space is also strong, with health insurer NIB selling its Hunter Street property portfolio ahead of a future relocation to Honeysuckle.
We've secured a local development company, McCloy's, in conjunction with Macquarie Bank, and they've purchased that collection of properties for a price in excess of $8 million.
NIB's administration building will be refurbished, with proposals under development for the other properties. Industrial property is also drawing big dollars, with a local investor buying the Blackwood site in Hannell Street, Wickham for $7 million. And after just 1 week of calling proposals for Intertrade Park on the Hunter River side of the old BHP site, Colliers is reporting solid inquiry from businesses, including port-related users and heavy industry. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Enrolment day at any tertiary education institution means one thing: long queues and plenty of them.
I've been here for a few hours.
Very boring and long.
It should be shorter.
And with more than 55,000 students expected to enrol at the Hunter Institute of TAFE today and tomorrow, it's hardly surprising lines looked like this.
Enrolment day, it's taken ages, but at the end it should all be good.
According to Hunter TAFE's director, an increasing number of both school leavers and mature age students are choosing TAFE over uni because of the practical components of courses, particularly in trade-based courses.
Recent research has shown that in the last
at least the last 3 or 4 years, between 300 and 400 university graduates have been enrolling in Hunter Institute. They come back to TAFE to do some of the practical subjects and pick up some practical on-the-job skills.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. Each year, 1 million school days are lost Australia-wide because of children suffering asthma. And with the number of attacks predicted to increase as the school year begins, doctors are asking parents to keep a particularly close eye on their children.
It doesn't happen every year. It's been happening about every 2 or 3 years. Last year there was a very small rise, but we haven't had a big peak since about 2001. And so nobody knows whether it's going to happen this year or not.
Doctors are also unsure what causes the increase of attacks in children at this time of year.
No one really knows. It's not clear as to what brings it on, but it's possibly due to the fact that kids are more exposed to, or exposure to more viruses and cold type symptoms, or it could be just the change in the environment.
Parents are advised to make sure their children know what to do if they feel an attack coming on and to watch out for the early signs of asthma.
Being breathless, wheezy, coughing over night time.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Newcastle sure can score goals, but it's keeping them out this season that's proved something of an Achilles heel. Current gloveman Ante Kovic only joined late in the season, but freely admits his consistency isn't where he wants it to be, blaming himself for Sydney's opener on Friday night.
That's been my strong point over the last 10 years. The high ball has been my bread and butter.
Frustrated, yes, but experience tells the Socceroo squad member that faith in his ability will be far more productive.
I'm not going to go out there and try and do something extra and do something special. If I play my game, then that's good enough because I know it will be good enough.
Given the weight that away goals carry in the two-leg series against Sydney, any score from the visitors on Friday night could be fatal, given Newcastle would need 3 in replay to win the tie or 2 just to force extra time. 1-0 or better would be the preferred result for the home side, but it's created a real balancing act on team selection, with the form of Milton Rodriguez irresistible.
Milton did extremely well when he came in, but Covs worked very, very hard in that first answer as well. So, it may be a situation for horses for courses. It's not to say that we don't play both.
Whoever gets on must play for keeps.
You can rely on next week and the week after during the season, but right now we've got Friday to rely on. If we don't make it on Friday, then that's it.
They may not be golden guitars, but in the eyes of Kurrambong bush poet Carol Hukin, these Golden Gumleaf Awards she received in a gala ceremony in Tamworth are just as esteemed.
They had a new category in the Laureate Awards this year for the first time, the People's Choice Performer of the Year, and that's voted by people throughout Australia, and I was very lucky to win that one too.
It's her versatility that's made her so popular. Her favourite works are ones that teach others about Australia's vast history, such as the poem Rosie.
It's a story, it's set in Australia's historical past about a horse that went to war.
Carol says she takes her inspiration from anything, including this shiny red $34,000 tractor she won for her laureate talents 2 years ago.
I hit the French patisserie, it's now a pancake shop. The slasher's into overdrive, it's got a turbo prop. I wiped the local brothel out, 6 naked ladies ducked. I went through someone's faulty shed, the chooks all come out plucked. As if the list of all I've done is insufficient failures, I detoured through the council park and headed all the dahlias.
Walter Humphreys was today cleaning up the mess left behind by two young thieves after they broke into his house and ransacked it in the early hours of this morning.
Two young chaps walked into my bedroom and woke me up, put their torch to my eyes. One stayed with me while the other ran around and sacked the place.
Once awake, they issued him with a simple demand.
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said, you got 10 or...
The thieves already had his wallet containing $100, but not believing it was all the cash in the house, they then went through every drawer, cupboard and hiding place they could find. Mr. Humphreys was finally left alone, unhurt but shaken. Police today described the thieves as cowards.
They generally target people who they know are frail or elderly or otherwise, can't defend themselves, and it is a pretty low act.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
In Ellamore Vale, the young triplets are preparing to take on kindergarten and one very brave teacher.
What is your name?
Isabella. Caitlin. Charlotte.
They've got the hairbrushing down pat, need a little help with the shoelaces, and are still working out the logistics of slinging on a backpack. Now all they and their busy parents Mark and Liz need is for tomorrow to roll around.
Really looking forward to getting a bit of time for ourselves and for Liz to have a break.
Even just having my older daughter go off to school this morning and just getting her ready, I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get all four of them?
Isabella, Caitlin and Charlotte, who is profoundly deaf and hears with the aid of a cochlear implant, will all be in the same class. What are they looking forward to most? Well, that's easy.
Going in and playing and having lunch.
It's a big week too for the new Ashtonfield Public School, which today welcomed its first 200-odd students. Everything is shiny and spick and span for now, but unleashing a few classrooms full of kids will ensure that's seen to in no time. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
While it may have surprised some, Bryce Gaudry's decision to cut his Labor allegiance and stand as an independent was eagerly anticipated by most of his opponents. Fellow independent John Tate says the sitting member's decision has brought Newcastle's 48,000 enrolled voters to decision time.
As to whether they want this seat to be a marginal seat or whether they want to continue with the way it's been for the last 20 years or thereabouts.
Speaking from Sydney, Liberal candidate Martin Babakan described it as the makings of a godsend election where the merits of candidates rather than political affiliation will count. The Greens' Michael Osborne says Bryce Gaudry's move has started the real battle for the seat, with local issues to be the deciding factor.
They really want to change, and they want a real change and a real voice in Newcastle, and they really want to, stop Sydney from interfering in Newcastle affairs.
And that's just what John Tate wants.
Well, I think it's got to be about Newcastle, it's got to be about the seat, it's got to be about the future.
Gary Blair, NBN News. Updated timetables for 30 routes travelled by Newcastle buses came into operation on Sunday, but the Drivers' Union admits it hasn't been an easy transition from old to new.
People trying to keep to the timetable, but where sections of the route have had time reduced, drivers are finding it pretty difficult to keep the bus to the new timetables.
State Transit and the union have both fielded complaints from disgruntled passengers. State Transit Chief Executive John Lee today advising people with complaints about changes to services or those wanting a copy of the new timetables to call the Transport Info line. The union's Dave Woolhams, however, believes negotiations with State Transit may be needed.
With the information we're receiving from drivers regarding late running, we'd be calling for an urgent meeting with management, senior management, to address these issues.
Meantime, Railcorp documents released under Freedom of Information have revealed the level of timetable descent after changes in late 2005. The Newcastle Central Coast Line recorded most complaints about overcrowding, with the 7:56am Newcastle-Sydney service and the 3:15pm from Sydney to Newcastle among the worst affected. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The scheduling couldn't be avoided, but it's not your normal way of preparing for a do-or-die semi-final, mixing with your opposition. 4 Sydney players and as many from the Jets are the best of friends at the Australian under-23s camp, but come Friday and it's enemies once again.
We know each other inside out as it is. It's just a matter of fact is when the game's on the weekend, just remember he's not my friend anymore.
No, I'm just taking their money at poker, that's all.
They return to their respective clubs tomorrow before meeting in Newcastle on Friday. Meanwhile, Labano Haliti didn't even make it to the Olyroos camp after he was granted an immediate release from his Newcastle Jets contract overnight before leaving for Europe in a move that even left teammates stumped.
I don't know much about it. He was supposed to be at the airport with us yesterday, but didn't turn up.
The young midfielder had been wrestling with a decision to return and represent his native Albania, or continue his international dream in his adopted Australian colours, and the lure of returning to Europe has won out. It's heating up in more ways than one at Knights training, but no one's taking a backward step. They can't afford to. While there's a handful that pick themselves in certain positions, Jared Mullen will get first shot at 5/8, leaving Kurt Gidley searching for a full-time spot elsewhere. Lock is a possibility, but full-back shapes as the obvious target.
Yeah, I mean, I finished the year off there last year, which I enjoyed. I like playing there. Sort of gives me a free rein to sort of, hang around the ruck and float out wide.
Returning for his first full training session today after ankle and back problems, Milton Thaiday would like to think he'll have a fair say on who gets the number 1 spot as well.
That's where I feel I play my best footy at the back, where I can roam around wherever I want to be.
The man who gets to make the final call says it's all a work in progress, but he's loving the puzzle so far, considering the level of competition across a number of spots.
We want to get ourselves to a position where we've got contenders so that the team can function smoothly no matter what sort of obstacles are put in our way throughout the course of the year.
Bad news though for speedster Trent Sorkeld, whose immediate playing future has been knocked by kidney disease. Suffering a similar problem to that which floored rugby great Jonah Lomu, the best case scenario for the winger appears to be treatment and a return to football later in the season. The worst case is retirement.
It was wonderful actually. We could have won, but just a bit of a setup change on the car that we should have. It wasn't 100%, but it's better to come second.
The aerial search began just after 6 o'clock this morning after Van Nguyen failed to return from a nighttime fishing expedition.
We got a position that there was an oil slick approximately 8 nautical miles northeast of Nobbies, and that we were going to commence a search area there.
As family and friends waited anxiously on shore, a fishing trawler which had joined the search found the 42-year-old floating in the ocean at around 7:30 this morning. He was pulled aboard and then brought back to the safety of land, his family overjoyed he'd only suffered mild hypothermia. Police say the boat sank very quickly at around 11:30 last night.
He's taken water on in the engine room, and within a minute it had gone down. He wasn't able to contact on the radios. The batteries must have been submerged, and the quickest thing he could do was grab a life jacket and jump overboard as it was going down.
Police say it's a miracle Mr Newen managed to survive for nearly 8 hours in the freezing shark-infested waters. It was largely his life jacket which saved him. Police urging other boaties to take every precaution when taking to the waters.
Contact is a big thing, reporting where you're going, when you'll be back, so that of course we can initiate something if they are having problems.
Christy Carter, NBN News. It's what has kept Jenny Walker alive, the hope she'd live long enough to see her eldest son Chris graduate from the New South Wales Police Academy. Today her dying wish was granted by the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, which flew her to the ceremony.
It's just been a goal of ours for the past year to get to Goulburn, and it looked like that goal was slipping away. Now these people are making it reality for us. It's excellent, and we're very, very
And the medical
proud, very
staff
honoured.
and the MARTA, they've just been absolutely amazing. Can't thank them enough.
Jenny was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years ago. She went into remission, but then 2 years later received the devastating news the disease had spread to her liver, lung and sternum. Her son was ready to give up on his dream and leave the police college, but instead, despite her illness, Jenny encouraged him to continue. In recognition of her courage, the helicopter service, along with police, ambulance and hospital staff, organised for her to attend her son's big day, a dream come true for both of them.
That was her whole dream before she passes away. If we can play one little part in making that dream come true, well, I think we've done our job.
The day full of memories Jenny's family will never forget, and one in particular she says she'll take with her.
I guess seeing him throw his hat in the air. So, and just the whole, just the fact that he's done us so proud.
It was a goal of hers to get here and see me, and yeah, I'm wrapped. I'm proud for her to be here, and it's a proud day.
We've done it. We've done it. Yep, we've done it.
Christy Carter, NBN News.
Milton Orkopoulos was initially arrested and charged in November last year with 30 offences. 12 of the charges allege he supplied a prohibited drug. There are also a range of sexual assault offences, including offences involving children and using threats to procure prostitutes. The allegations ended the Swansea MP's 15-month term as Aboriginal Affairs Minister, and he subsequently resigned from the Parliament. Today, those original 30 charges were mentioned before Magistrate Richard Wakely in Newcastle Local Court, along with 3 fresh matters arising since Milton Orkopoulos's initial court appearance late last year. The latest charges allege possession of child pornography and a further 2 matters of supplying a prohibited drug. Unlike the first time the Orkopoulos matter was mentioned in Newcastle Local Court in November of last year, the matter was over within a matter of minutes and Milton Orkopoulos wasn't present in the courtroom. The case, ironically, won't be back before the bench until after the state election. Magistrate Wakely adjourned proceedings until March 28, continuing Milton Orkopoulos's bail, and he excused the 49-year-old from attending court on the next occasion. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The vandal attacks on telecommunication cables leading into Port Stephens began in December last year. Police say over the past 2 months, Telstra lines have been unearthed and cut 4 times, leaving thousands of residents and businesses without phone or internet access. However, they're unsure if the same person or group is responsible for all 4 attacks.
A 34-year-old man has been charged with 2 of the earlier offences. They are following up leads at the moment in relation to the last 2 offences that may be copycat, may be associates.
Police believe the lines are being sabotaged to allow perpetrators to use stolen credit cards at nearby shopping centres and commit small-scale fraud. But it's not just shopkeepers and people trying to access their money through FPOS and ATMs that are being inconvenienced by the crimes.
Primarily, our concern is in relation to emergency services. The hospital, ambulance services, fire brigades, those sorts of things are all having their computer systems, their phone lines all disengaged as a result of these crimes.
Anyone caught deliberately damaging or interfering with telecommunication lines could face up to a 25-year jail sentence. Madeline Bond, NBN News. Yesterday they graduated from the New South Wales Police College in Goulburn. Today they were put to work. A total of 40 probationary officers have joined our local area commands, with the largest number of new recruits sent to Lake Macquarie and the Lower Hunter.
I'm local, so I'm happy to help out the community. So it's been a lifelong dream.
It's just something I've always wanted to do since I was younger.
It's an exciting and challenging career. There's a diverse range of areas you can move into.
While today was fairly easy for our newest boys and girls in blue, spent going over the basics, it's about to get a lot harder.
Their first 12 months is very difficult because they are getting used to police work itself. They have rigorous academic studies and there are the stresses of dealing with trauma.
But the new recruits don't mean there's more police manning our stations. Rather, they're replacing those about to leave the force, which, according to the Police Association, isn't good enough.
It's very much a case of putting new police at the top of the bucket while the older police with medically unfit are leaving at the other end.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
While investments have been made to improve infrastructure, ship queues are still a constant off the coast, with vessels arriving at a faster rate than coal can be transported from the mines to the ships. Every day the carriers are forced to queue costs the coal producers in demurrage fees. Upwards of $120 million per annum was a figure floated by Port Waratah Coal Service chairwoman Eileen Doyle in 2003. Needless to say, it's money the mining giants would rather not spend. Participants in the Hunter Valley coal chain last night resolved to form a working group to review the situation and develop recommendations to address it. Coal and Allied today released a statement saying a demand management system that matches port and rail capacity with coal production is needed. In other words, the producer wants to see the quota system, which was initiated by the PWCS and implemented by the ACCC back in 2004, reintroduced. It also suggests it should be kept in operation until a proposed new coal loader would come online in 2 or 3 years. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.
He's developed a cult-like following in Newcastle, and the Jets acknowledge Milton Rodriguez is worth keeping.
The fans have connected with him, but by the same token, he wants to play for the club, which is important to us as well.
The club will put a formal offer to the Colombian striker tomorrow, a 2-year term to better the 1 season offered by the Mariners.
If you can get longer than a year, that is a far greater consideration to him rather than the money.
Contract talks aside, there's Friday night's game to consider as Sydney continues its one-way war of words, scare tactics that the Jets just aren't buying into.
The pressure's really, for me, is well and truly on Sydney. They're the reigning premiers. They're the ones who are talking it all up. They're the ones who are saying that they've got this, that and the other.
As for the Jets, it really has been a relaxed build-up. Van Egmond has scaled back training to make absolutely sure that players are ready for the skirmish.
We've sort of freshened up this week and, we really want to be, right from the kick-off, we want to be all guns blazing.
In front of what's expected to be a record crowd.
It's not a sellout yet, but we are expecting a sellout. 22,000 tickets have been pre-sold.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Putting one to a tour is a little bit unusual, but in a way they're all known quantities for me, so it's there's no surprises. So I'm pretty comfortable going on the trip.
How's this for breathing new life into a drab multi-level car park? The designer making better use of the so-called dead space, incorporating a residential component.
We're always looking for more places to have houses, and I suppose I thought that if we put housing on the outside of that building, the car park could remain unaltered, people could still park their cars there, but we could use this little bit of leftover space.
Instead of a characterless concrete exterior, he's used quintessential Newcastle facades such as miners' cottages, the concept winning an international design competition in Tokyo.
It was great to stand in front of an international audience talking about the David Jones car park.
Included in the exhibition at the Watts Space Gallery, a work focused on the empty, boarded-up buildings in Hunter Street, emphasising just how bad it looks. And Catherine Parkinson has created a board game, inviting people to become Frank Sartor, the Planning Minister, for just a few minutes. The interpretation that the planning process is normally played out by the politicians, rather than the community. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
They have a new coach, a fresh outlook, and have turned debt into a handsome profit. So it begs the question, why replace the chairman?
I obviously know what's gone on, but these matters are covered by board confidentiality and I'm not prepared to discuss them.
This was the official line. A majority of directors felt a leadership change was necessary to reconcile the aims and objectives of the board and the club. Mike Tyler says he'll always remain loyal to the Knights, even if the same courtesy wasn't extended by the board.
A vote of no confidence was raised by one of the Newcastle Rugby League guys, Vince Murphy. It was seconded by Peter Corcoran, who was in fact the deputy chairman.
His was also the swinging vote in the 5-4 decision. Tyler then resigned as chairman and forfeited his position as director.
I don't believe the job was finished. There are still things to be done, and an unpleasant way for the matter to come to a head.
Former club officials say at the heart of this feud is an issue which has been debated with vigour since the club's infancy. Individuals put forward by the Newcastle Rugby League hold 4 of the 9 seats on the Knights board. They are appointed positions, while the remaining 5 are elected by Knights members. Put simply, this latest move's been described as the tail wagging the dog, and there's now a push to have more members voted onto the board rather than appointed.
The members should, in a democratic way, elect the board.
That'll mean a change in constitution. In a joint statement released by the elected directors, which includes Paul Harrigan, it says these 4 non-elected members have exercised power as a caucus and that we will be seeking a remedy to this position. In light of the situation, the Knights contacted sponsors today. They say it's not damage control, but do concede it's instability they didn't need 6 weeks out from season kickoff. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
It's a youth centre with a difference. Yes, there's the typical pool table, couches and a TV, but this place offers a lot more than that. The kids who come here have left mainstream school for various reasons and are seeking an alternative education. The centre offers a literacy and numeracy course, not to mention self-development skills and team building. The students even constructed this garden.
The real issue about this place is that once you finish the literacy and numeracy program, you have to go into a next step, which is either paid work or volunteer work or further training, and every single one of the kids who have graduated have done that.
The annual funding grant of $73,000 has been cut, the Department of Education instead suggesting students travel to Newcastle to attend WEA. But the lack of affordable public transport is posing a problem.
I was a little bit sad because I can't come back to school.
This community really needs an alternative education program for young people. We have a high rate of school leavers leaving quite early. We also have high unemployment for adolescents.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. There was much anticipation as the Virgin Blue Boeing 737 taxied along the tarmac this morning, not due to the arrival of a celebrity, but someone rather important just the same. Megan Davies was plucked from the crowd, and what a reception as she made her way into the terminal.
Well, I was landing in Newcastle to visit my daughter who's just moved here. Her boyfriend's in the Air Force. And I got off the plane and a man came to meet me and shook my hand and told me I was the 1 millionth passenger.
A rather shocked Megan was then presented with 2 free return air tickets, which will be put to good use.
I live in Tasmania, so it's nice to be able to come and see my daughter from time to time. It'll be excellent.
And like the record number of passengers driven by low-cost carriers, the number of destinations is also set to expand.
In the next few years, we look at probably seeing more domestic flights being increased in terms of destinations, maybe to interstate, but also looking at the international destinations in the next 2 to 3 years.
In the past, car parking has always been a sore point, but they say that's all changed.
We've now constructed another 600 new car parks. We're just finalising our new $500,000 covered walkway to those car parks.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The step from primary to high school is a monumental one for kids, with many finding the transition downright daunting. Yet surprisingly, there is minimal, if any, support in the school system for students struggling with the concept.
Bullying is a great example of some of the problems these students face. We even face it as adults. These kids are having difficulty in the school environment and also the home environment.
Recently, the New South Wales Government acknowledged more needed to be done to prepare kids for the transition, making it compulsory for all primary schools to implement a personal development program within the next 3 years. One such program has been created by Newcastle businessman Michael Crozier. Adventure Plus uses a 3-tiered approach involving a school camp and classroom sessions, followed up with individual monitoring and assessment. It will cost students $70 each, but there's already some early support from the principal of the school where the pilot was tested.
Many schools have camping programs and peer support programs and programs of that ilk. And what this did, I think, was pull it all together and and concentrated it sort of more on the welfare issues and the confidence issues.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Back on their home pitch today, and Jets coach Gary Van Egmond couldn't be happier with the mood in his camp.
It's a good position as far as the coach is concerned when we've got no injuries, and the boys are as keen as mustard to get on that team sheet at that 11.
The mission to eliminate Sydney and put the Jets into the A-League preliminary final requires Newcastle to score and at least keep the visitors scoreless after last week's 2-1 loss. Jade North confident it can be done.
We've got the quality, we've certainly got better talent in this team, we can do the job.
When will Milton Rodriguez take the park? The coach not giving away his battle plan.
Still not sure. We'll have another look again today. But either way, Milton will have a big hand to play on Friday night.
With a sellout crowd of over 24,000 to be at EA, all Jets players want is a repeat of the crowd's recent enthusiasm against Melbourne.
If we can get that same vocal crowd going, we'll have a 12th man out there tomorrow night.
They really hope they can repay their faith by a good performance on Friday.
Sydney trained this afternoon, complete with new recruit Jonas Saleh, part of its full complement of players, giving coach Terry Butcher a welcome selection headache.
I don't know what to do with 16 players. We've never had that for ages.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
As a footballer, Paul Harrigan never took a backward step, an ethos he's taken with him into the Knights boardroom. He knows all too well how to rally support. And last night, Harrigan issued an emotionally charged statement saying the directors not elected by our membership are in control of the club. To have 2 NRL directors who are not accountable might be reasonable, but 4 is fundamentally wrong. It's a move backed by Life member Lee Morn, who is also the Knights' #1 ticket holder.
I would go to 1 if necessary. Certainly this situation's been out of whack for years, since we started.
If Harrigan, fellow directors Mark Fitzgibbon and Alan McEwen are successful in their bid to have the Constitution changed, they need major support from club faithful.
I am, in a funny way, pleased it's come, because now we can get it done and dusted. Get the members to the table, be quick and decisive and fix it.
The 4 appointed directors and acting chairman Peter Corcoran say they are bound by a strict media policy and in the short term won't be making any further comments. So the board can't explain a statement it made in the wake of Mike Tyler's resignation, which says a decision was made to ensure the club remain a community-owned asset. No one has put up evidence that it was ever in danger of such a change. The board will meet on Monday to appoint a new chairman who is faced with mending one mighty rift. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
In the search for the Hunters' most avid Jets fan, it'd be hard to beat Aaron Owen.
I've missed about 3 in 2 years, so I'm really excited about tonight. Should be a good game.
He's so keen on the round ball game that he named his son after English football star Michael Owen. And at just 3 years of age, little Michael's already showing off his skills. Or perhaps 19-year-old Tim Verschelden might be in the running for the most fanatical supporter stakes. He's a member of supporter group The Squadron. He and his mother have spent hours creating banners and signs of all shapes and sizes.
Pretty much one of the most passionate fans in Newcastle, really. I've been to Melbourne and Brisbane this year to support the boys, and Sydney and Central Coast.
Normally a rugby league mad town, Newcastle is of course flying different colours today, with everything from shirts to painted fingernails a golden hue. There was a last-minute dash at Charlestown, with many decking themselves out from head to toe with every piece of merchandise possible. Fans doing all they can to give the boys a boost in tonight's sudden death semi with Sydney. And as for the scoreline,
I think we'll win 1-0.
Hopefully about 3-1 our way. That'll do.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. She's a 10-metre timber ketch built from hewn pine, Oregon and teak, a fine example of traditional timber boat building. But as you can see, the morning light has seen better days, and with this special attention it's hoped she will sail again.
The timber ketch originally is about 90 years old, and it's had a varied history. We're still trying to track down the original owners, but there has been several modifications done.
The yacht will be transformed back to her original condition thanks to Choice Australia, which is running a program with the help of qualified boat builders, the participants learning woodwork and shipwright skills.
We're currently restoring that as a work for the dole to eventually auction it off and to donate the proceeds to the PCYC of Broadmeadow.
Among the budding boat builders, 28-year-old Alison Hurrell, who previously worked as a financial planner. She's made a sea change by joining the Navy, but in the meantime she's picking up a few new skills.
The ships at that point in the Navy might be a little bit more refurbished, but no, it's certainly learning a lot about shipbuilding and so forth.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Well, it's certainly been a busy afternoon. People have been lining up for some time. As you can imagine, traffic around the precinct is slow, as is getting through the gates. Now, the Jets players have already said they want their fans to be vocal. They've been described as Newcastle's 12th man. As for the visitors, there'll be at least one player smiling, on the inside at least, when he runs out onto the field in front of a sellout crowd.
Incredible, and not just for Newcastle, which is my hometown, but for soccer in general in this country. It's just fabulous.
On the park, Sydney FC has signed midfielder Jonas Sally for the sudden death semi. He's been brought in to replace the injured Terry McFlynn and Terry Butcher. The coach of Sydney FC has described Sally as a great asset.
He brings a bit of steel to the team, a bit of mongrel, a bit of devastation in midfield, sometimes one would say.
And there's certainly been plenty said over the move, with Sydney criticised for bringing Sally in now after he played for New Zealand in the season proper. It's just another saga in what's really been a week of verbal exchanges between the sides ahead of what promises to be an extraordinary evening.
It's only half time now, 90 minutes to go. We're at home, so it's going to be a great game.
Now, the Jets are boasting a clean bill of health. Kickoffs in a short time from now. We'll have the match report and all the wash-up, of course, in tomorrow night's news. Mike.
Getting reacquainted with the home they so rarely get to see nowadays, Kevin Curtin and Brock Parkes are lapping up their downtime with the start of the 2007 World Supersport Series just 3 weeks away. It's all about looking ahead for Curtin, who had the 2006 title all stitched up, only to watch his team's hard work slip away when he crashed in the final round.
Just a slow fall, left-hand corner, and it was actually one of the slowest corners on the circuit. And that's always, the way. The ones you don't see coming are the ones that just you can't get back from.
The veteran rider has a game plan this year to ensure arch-rival Sébastien Charpentier doesn't pip him at the post again.
I'd like to win the World Championship with probably a round to go, so all the pressure's right off and you're not going right to the wire.
Curtin will have to stave off fierce competition from teammate Brock Parkes too, who's sporting a few fresh battle scars from his own misadventures last season.
Get back on the bike as soon as possible before you get all the bad demons in the head.
A fourth place finish in 2006 was okay, but not good enough, according to Parkes, who's focused on bringing an end to the dominance of the Honda team.
Now the bike's 1 year old, we have a lot better idea what's going on with the bike, and I'm pretty sure that this year we can start the first race with the bike absolutely right.
First stop is Qatar on February 24 with the second round at Phillip Island. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
It beats sitting around inside, thinking about it. You can just get out here and while away a few hours floating around the lake.
Answering a call to arms, Newcastle fans ensured this match was always going to be a sellout. 24,000 people turned out for the elimination semi, and Alex Brosk stirred up most of them. His was the first in a series of yellow cards, while Milton Rodriguez saw red after what should have been a sure thing. The Jets pushed again, but were denied another chance when Sydney quite literally played its hand. It wasn't long before Griffiths was appealing again, and with both teams at breaking point, the war of words escalated, with Alex Brosk sent off for his part. Sydney coach Terry Butcher was mad as a meat axe as the theatrics continued well into the break. The Jets' Colombian striker started the second half much like the first, but the real sting to Sydney's campaign was yet to come. The final nail in Sydney's coffin delivered by Matt Thompson and Vaughan Coveney. Sydney tried for that valuable away goal, but the night belonged to the Jets. It wasn't quite the grand final win, but for Newcastle coach Gary Van Egmond, it might as well have been. It was a recovery from a hangover of the best possible kind.
Sometimes I've got to pinch myself that it's all real, but no, it's been magnificent, and the boys have just been thorough professionals.
Bathed in glory, the Jets are very much enjoying their time in the sun, and quite rightly so. Players rating the whole experience as one of their finest moments.
It's definitely right up there, and it was just a great night. I thought all the boys put in 110% effort.
It's a special bunch of boys we got here, and we knew we would have to pull something special out if we wanted to go through, and I think everyone pulled together and did that. We put on a great performance for the home crowd.
A home crowd, Nick Carl says, was the best he's ever played in front of, the team rewarding its supporters who still turned up when things weren't quite the screaming success.
We've been watching nearly every game, coming from Sydney to Newcastle.
From Sydney to Newcastle?
Yeah, crazy.
Crazy is one way to describe celebrations. They were also euphoric, manic, wild and wonderful.
Go Jets! Yeah, baby! Yeah!
Outside the sheds, fans provided a rapturous welcome. There they grabbed autographs, and let's face it, there's one signature everyone wants.
Gary's here to stay, mate. Onward next week. Melbourne or Adelaide, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. We're going to bring the championship home.
The residents of Western Lake Macquarie have been campaigning against open-cut coal mines for decades, and today it seems their efforts paid off with the state government issuing a ban on any new open-cut mines.
Here in Lake Macquarie we've got a long and proud tradition of coal mining, but that's been underground coal mining, and the community supports underground coal mining, the economic benefits and the jobs that it creates in the local area, but they don't want open-cut coal mines in Lake Macquarie.
The state government had previously located 6 areas between the Wattigans and Lake Macquarie that could have been used for open-cut mining, including this section of bushland near the Araring power station. Greg Piper, who just today announced he'll stand against Labor as an independent, welcomed the announcement, which he believes was politically motivated, with the timing a little suspicious.
I'm really pleased that it seems my announcement has prompted the Planning Minister, Frank Sartor, to declare that there will be no open-cut mining in Lake Macquarie.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. By running as independents in the upcoming state election, the mayors of Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and Maitland are planning a 3-pronged combined attack on what have traditionally been Labor's strongholds in the Hunter.
Hopefully that we can bring some pressure to bear to ensure that the Hunter is better represented and we do at least get a better return on the money which goes from the Hunter down to the Treasury in Sydney.
I don't believe anything like this has ever happened in the Hunter, and I think that it really has huge implications for the future and the way in which the state government deals with the Hunter.
If elected, the candidates say they intend to form a loose alliance but won't be afraid to disagree in the interest of each of their own electorates. All 3 mayors intend to retain their local government positions. Madeline Bond, NBN News.